What is up, Steeler fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Hangover. It is not a Victory Monday. This is a Sorrow Monday. I'm your host, Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White. Shannon, can you tell me, how can we get through this year? 2 steps forward, 5 steps backwards, however you want to put it. How are you feeling today?
Well, I'm actually feeling enlightened. I think that we all got a big dose of reality last night, and as long as we're willing to accept it, now it only matters is the Rooneys and the ownership accept it.
Yeah,
and everybody can look at this rationally and realizing the old standard is no longer we don't rebuild, we reload, all this nonsense. You know, if you're going to learn to swim, you got to get in the water. You can't just keep dipping your toe in because you ain't accomplishing anything. And I liked how they went and did things different to set themselves up at a start of a real rebuild after all these 1-year contracts come off. And we've been talking about that it was either going to work and they were going to have a little success this year, but either way, next year is there's going to be a lot of changes, even more so than this year. So I think as long as we could face the rest of the season with realistic expectations, we can get through this.
I don't disagree with you. You know, I think that there's more to it, though. You know, there's so many frustrations here. You have the personnel decisions. You have Jaylen Warren being or you have Gainwell outsnapping Jaylen Warren. You have the lack of a wide receiver number 2. Maybe perhaps you do have one in Roman Wilson. He's shown a little bit of flash here and there, but the reluctancy of keeping him in there. You also have some of these decisions to throw the ball in certain situations versus staying with what is working when you have a running back in Jaylen Warren who's averaging, I think it was like 4.6 yards a carry. And yet you only have him out there 40-some-odd% of the snaps. Kenneth Gainwell, as I mentioned, outsnaps him. I think that there's some issues here that are more than just the limitations of the team. I think that at certain points of this game, especially early on, there was opportunities, and this team failed to capitalize on them. And I was texting with my family and my father and my brothers, and I was like, hey, I think we're leaving too many points on the board here. And obviously it ended up being the case. But, you also have a quarterback who at times has carried the offense, has made some amazing throws, hasn't killed the offense until last night, I think. And I think last night was the first time. Is this just a bad game from Aaron Rodgers, in your opinion, or is this something more to come, so to speak, because Father Time is undefeated?
No, last night was the beginning of the end in the black and gold, in my opinion. Yeah. He didn't care. It was self-preservation last night. Throwing the ball as he was turning his back to the hit. I mean, there is frustration, but, it's him. I've been talking about it all year. When he misses, it's early in games and he misses high. He misses high because he don't set his feet. And he's still got a live arm, but it's scatter gun arm when he's not setting his feet. He had a walk-in touchdown for Metcalf, and he just airmailed it. Then he airmailed the interception. Now, yes, the one went off Calvin Austin's hands, but those things happen. Every player makes mistakes, but Rodgers missed the throw to Jonnu Smith. That would have been the first scores of the game right there. He was wide open. And the only thing Rodgers had to do was hit him, and he overthrew him, and then Smith couldn't come down with it. But they haven't been on the same page all year. But you see how much he did not care. Now, you know how I am. I can see a guy making mistakes as long as the effort's there. Metcalf has dropped a lot of balls this year, but you see the effort. He's just got bad hands. Dante Johnson didn't put in effort. I couldn't stand him. I watched Ben Roethlisberger fight and get destroyed behind some terrible offensive lines through the years. But he was a warrior and he kept fighting. Now, Rodgers don't have a great offensive line. They didn't even play very well last night. in pass protection. But he was bailing. He will throw the ball away. He'll bounce it. He don't even try. And then when he does get out of the pocket, he's missing throws, which he had been hitting. But the difference to me last night, as you could tell, he was disinterested. He was sitting on the sidelines. Oh, pitiful me. Woe is me. He quit. And they got a big problem. And he's not the answer moving forward. I don't know what is, but I don't think it's him because he checked out on the Steelers last night. And his teammates were none too happy.
You know, to me, I didn't see him checking out. Maybe you're right. I'd have to go back and watch. I saw a person who was maybe perhaps a little bit making some business decisions per se, looking at the line, looking at the pressure. I think he was a little bit rattled by what was going on. Maybe they, he kind of reminded me of what he was like early on in the season when he was getting hit quite a bit. Now in this game, as you mentioned, the offensive line didn't play so well. Broderick Jones looked like a turnstile again. And, that's going to be a real problem for the Steelers. The teams are noticing what the weakness is there, and they're exploiting it, and they're going through it quite a bit on the offensive line. And to me, like I said, he seemed more like he had happy feet. He seemed like he was looking more down at the line than what the options were out down on the field, because it seemed like there was opportunities to throw the ball down the field. And it seemed like there was guys that were open at different points. And when, like you said, when he did throw the ball, he was throwing it high. What do you think there could have been something to the fact that this was a indoor stadium game? How do you think that may affect how he's been throwing the ball recently, outdoors in the weather, in implement weather? Maybe he was putting a little bit too much because of how he's been able to have to throw the ball throughout the weather. And that's more of an excuse. The more I talk about it, the worse it sounds. He's a 4-time MVP. He doesn't need that. This upcoming game against the Bengals, how much weight can you put into if he has a bounce back game? Because every Steelers team quarterback has had a bounce back game against the Bengals. Would it put any more? I mean, what would it do to your opinion if he has a bounce back game?
Not going to change anything.
Not going to change anything.
It's over. I mean, eventually you throw enough good money at a problem when you should have just started over. You can rebuild an old house over and over and over, put tons of money in it, and eventually you just need to tear it down and start over. You're going to come out and get a better investment in the end. This is over. It's over. They're upside down in their investment on defense. It just isn't there. Again, if they don't get turnovers, they can't get off the field very often. They have very few 3 and outs. They do on offense, but not on defense. He made one play last night. I think he got a sack late. But other than that, again, he was pretty invisible. They say he gets chipped a lot. Yeah, yes, he does. But when he don't get chipped, he don't make plays either. Hayward, I guess he was there last night. I don't know. It's just a lot of money. Some of it worked out. Obviously, it didn't with Slay. It didn't with Thornhill, who's gone now.
Yeah.
It's time to start over, everybody. It's just time to start over. You need new coaching staff. You need new personnel on both sides of the ball. You need a new standard. Things now, legacy guys don't exist. The top teams right now, there's very few guys that have retired in the last 10 years that's a legacy guy for that team. The Steelers have a ton. We have guys right now, Hayward and Watt and these guys, we look at them as legacy guys. It's not the way of the game now.
Right.
Now you have a guy, you have him for a short period of time. When he asks for too much money, you let him move on. I mean, the only guy you might have for over 10 years is usually a quarterback. A position where the whole point is to protect. Everybody else is expendable. It's just the way it is. And I just think that the problems run so deep that nothing's going to change. If you look at the 4th down play last night, which the game was over in my opinion anyway, but they went for it on fourth. Did you watch the other three receivers that went out in the route? They were just halfway running, watching over to see what was going to happen. Everybody in the whole stadium knew that ball was going to go into double coverage to DK Metcalf. And the other three guys, you could tell, they didn't go out with any urgency. Let's say that Rodgers would have realized, okay, I ain't going to throw into this double team. I'm going to try to throw over here. And they were halfway running off the line of scrimmage. Daniel, it's broken. Everything about this team right now is broken. It's not just Rodgers, and it's not just the defense 2 weeks in a row. It's not just – it's just they rely on luck to beat people. If the other team totally falls apart, has 5 turnovers, 6 turnovers, give up 5, 6, 7 sacks. I mean, but if the Steelers can't do stuff like that, they can't win.
I don't disagree with you on a lot of it, but I will say that last night the defense seemed like they were doing their part, especially early on in the game. They were holding the running game, which, the Chargers were down to their like 4th, 5th, 3rd running back. And they were applying pressure and they were hitting Justin Herbert. And it felt like if the offense could have taken advantage, if they could have moved the ball, if they could have maintained possession of the ball. I mean, the time of possession, I think it was like super bad. I think the Chargers had the ball like 15 minutes longer than the Steelers did.
The Steelers went 0 for their first 9 on 3rd down, Daniel.
Yeah.
0 for 9. So you're not going to have time of possession when you're 0 for 9.
No, you're not.
But here's the thing. If it's 1 week we say it's the offense, then we say, oh, it's the defense. And then the special teams, he didn't fill the kickoff. Or it's this. It's always something when they underachieve and they're not ready to play and they're out-coached and they're out-executed. It's just over. I'm just done with it. I mean, I'm not making any excuses for either side of the ball. Last night, Jalen Warren deserves kudos. He played his heart out. Alex Highsmith played really, really hard. And honest to God, other than that, I don't know who I could really brag on. And if there was somebody else, please tell me.
Well, I thought Keanu Benton had a pretty good game. He applied quite a bit of pressure. He's taken some steps. He's taken some steps. I mean, he was pretty bad early on this season, and over the last few games, I think he's done better. The secondary, like I said, I think overall in general the defense was doing okay. I think that when they started to get on the field for a very long time, and the offense just couldn't produce anything. I mean, that's just an outcome of what you're going to get. These guys are older, and that's to the detriment of the team. It's a situation that you're going to want to deal with. You have to deal with when you end up going out there and you sign 30-plus-year-old players on the defensive side of the ball that, you're hoping that your offense can do their part. I mean, I think that was something that we had said, or I at least said multiple times throughout the offseason, was that if the offense can do their part, the tired fatigue and the injury factor for the defense maybe won't be there as bad. And unfortunately, the offense hasn't done their part. I mean, even though they've put up points and done some things, maybe perhaps been more efficient in those situations where the defense has given them their opportunities in the red zone and things like that, than years before. But like years before, they're not maintaining long drives. They're not maintaining possession of the ball. They're not doing any of those things. I have no idea what the issue there is.
I'd have an idea.
What do you think it is?
I mean, we're talking about since, let's just go back to 2010, their last Super Bowl appearance.
Yeah.
They were all offense and no defense. And then they were all defense and they were no offense. And they've not had a legit, really top-notch offense since 2016, 2017. And the defense has not been where it should be as TJ Watt's, as Harris got old and then TJ Watt kind of picked up the mantle. Now he's older. But even then, when have they had a good secondary? When is he? I mean, since the days of Ike Taylor, Troy Polamalu, Ryan Clark. I mean, it's complete and utter failure from the top down. From Kevin Colbert and some really, really bad drafts for a long, long time. Bad free agents decisions still going on. The decisions, I don't know if it was Khan or Waddle, if it come from the Rooneys, But the decisions to give the money to Watt that they did and Hayward and some of the guys that they're paying, like I always said, unless you got a team, it's a contending team, and you're one or two guys away, you don't want to have the highest paid guys in any position, even in the top five, because you need to spread that around and build up your ranks, build up your foundation. And it just been poorly executed, poorly managed for so long. And now we're stuck with what we got. And there's nothing going to change in the middle of the season because they're never going to do anything with Tomlin, with Austin, with Smith, none of it. But last night, I thought the offensive game plan was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Even if they'd executed, there was times, Daniel, that nobody even tries to get open, much less have an offensive coordinator capable of scheming them open. The only success they had was because Warren played his heart out. Warren is a beast. And like you said, they're not giving him the ball. So again, we keep making excuses, but that all comes back to the coaching. And there's only one person that's responsible for all the coaching.
I don't disagree with you there. To the thing though is if you're not going to have the high power or high paid positions, you have to be correct on your draft picks.
Yes, definitely.
And that's been the main issue is they haven't been for a while. Now, I think Fautano's been really good this year. I mean, excellent pick. Frazier's been an excellent pick. Joey Porter Jr. looked really good his rookie year. It's kind of, been okay since.
He hasn't developed, has he? Guess what that falls on? Coaching.
That's true. That is true. You look at some of the fourth round picks that they've had, McCormick, and Herbig, and I think they've hit here recently with Omar Khan a little bit more, but Broderick Jones is up in the air. They're going to have to make a decision at the end of the year whether or not they're going to do a 5th-year option. Would you be signing that?
How can you? I mean, last night there was one play that they wasn't on the same page or something. He started giving ground immediately at the snap, and he almost sacked Rodgers himself because he got pushed right in his lap. And he was actually looking back like, oh, gosh, I'm going to run into Rodgers because he was going backwards so fast. I don't know what he was trying to do. He never even said. He never tried to give any inclination of resistance. He got beat across the face like 3 times at different points in the game instantly.
Yeah.
He made that guy look like the second coming to TJ Watt. I can't even say the guy's last name, but he was just torching Jones. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you give that guy, that 5th-year extension. I don't know how you do it. Because what has he showed that makes you think that he's the answer to any question?
Yeah, I mean, there's even debate that Fautano should replace him, and Broderick Jones should be the new right tackle. I think there was.
But he sucked at right tackle.
No. Darnell Washington. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Converted. I thought you said Jones. Okay.
Yeah, I may have said Jones, but I meant Darnell Washington to be converted to the right tackle, and so to eliminate him as part of the offensive line altogether, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. He's been struggling. I know he's young, and those things. I think he's a guy that you probably can say, hey, we're going to deny the 5th-year option. And then, given an option to sign a contract that's more favorable for the team at the end of the season if he does well. Give him an opportunity to earn it, so to speak. And if he goes out there and he outperforms it, then he goes out there and outperforms it, and either the Steelers have to make that decision or allow him to go out there and they'll get a comp pick for it at the end of it, or they'll, keep him on the team. And so at this point, I don't think he's getting that 5th-year option.
I mean, we said Dan Moore sucked.
Yeah.
Now, Dan Moore, I think he said Tennessee. How's he looking? Not good.
Not good.
I don't think teams are lining up to sign or sign Broderick Jones if he becomes available. If they are, they're crazy. Again, you can have all the athleticism in the world, but if you don't have heart, it ain't going to matter. And the hardest lick I've seen him throw all year is when he sacked his own quarterback. So, I mean, obviously, he ain't a lot going on up here. I mean, he zones out a lot, and you can't give that guy fifth year option. You can't do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. You know, Frosty says Broderick could be better than we think. The blocking schemes are awful, and there's zero development in any of the line players.
No, I agree with that, but like I said, Dan Moore still sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that as well. I think that there's been a lot of question there. A lot of people have been asking for Mike Munchak for a reason, uh, but
Yeah,
but I mean, he also developed McCormick and Zach Frazier, and I think both those guys have done pretty well. Fautano is another player as well who had to take a whole year off. Now, some might say that these are guys that came in somewhat ready. I mean, I don't think you can say that about McCormick. But you know, Frazier and especially Fautano, they came in maybe a little bit more ready than your average rookie. But he still had to develop them over the span of the last couple of years, and I think he's done all right with them. I don't disagree, though. I think that the blocking scheme has been a huge question. The player positioning, I think, has been a huge question mark as well. As for instance, well, we can go back to Kevin Dotson or Kendrick Green, who took some shots earlier this week from Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know if you
yeah,
saw that,
yeah.
but putting players in positions they had never played before, and thinking I don't know, they were the smartest person in the room, so to speak, and thought that they could just put these players in different positions and that it would translate very quickly. Um, just didn't happen. So we've had those questions. Do you think Broderick Jones could be a better player if he was under different development?
Oh, I know there's a lot of people that can develop talent and personnel better than the Steelers. There's no doubt. Uh, does he go to the right team to do that? I mean, I don't know. My whole thing is, I've always talked about effort. You'll hear that a lot from me, and that comes into here. That's heart. And if I see a guy and I don't think he's got it, I don't waste time with him, because to play at that level, it's more than just skill set. It's more than just talent. You have to have that desire, that burning desire, to not just be good enough, but you want to be the best, and you put the work in. And listen, I understand guys are going to make mistakes. I've seen Roman Wilson make multiple mistakes, and he does it, but it's not a lack of effort. A lot of times he's tried too hard. But if that effort's there, he'll learn. Unless he's a total idiot, he will learn from his mistakes. But what happens is guys don't learn because they don't care, or they don't have enough brain cells, or they don't have enough heart.
Well,
And when I see that, I'm done.
well, here's
And
the
I
thing,
think the
though.
Steelers have seen that with a few guys recently, and they've said bye-bye.
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, we've just talked about a lot of different players that aren't developing. Steelers have been unable to develop a quarterback. They've been unable to develop a wide receiver. For the last few years, linemen have been an issue up until maybe Fautanu and Frazier, as far as development goes there. Defensive backs have been an issue with the development. So it sounds more like a coaching problem than anything else when it comes to these players. Now, the Steelers are understaffed, or smallest staffed, let me put it that way, smallest coaching staff in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Cheapest
appears,
too.
yeah, the cheapest one too. And it appears that they lean on players who are older that have been developed by other teams.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, maybe perhaps they don't have to, I guess, hire more of a staff. Whose responsibility or whose fault is that? Do you think it's Tomlin or Rooney when it comes to the size of the staff and the development aspect?
If I was guessing, I'd say both.
Yeah.
I don't think there's no salary cap on coaches. So I think that the Rooneys are smaller. They're not, as far as families go, owners, there's multiple owners, not just the Rooneys, but they have a smaller reserve of money to pull from. Like some of the teams are owned by billionaires. The Steelers are not. So, they're going to, when they have a choice, they're going to err on the side of caution. That's why their facilities get bad grades, and the way they treat the players and their families get bad grades. And because they don't just throw money out there, right? The only time you can get them to throw money out there willy-nilly is if they think they're signing a legendary Steeler, a legacy guy. Now, what's their legacy? Never won a freaking playoff game. Not one. And not had an outstanding playoff game. If they'd went out there and getting paid what he's getting paid and what had a 3-sack playoff game and they lost, even if they got blown up, but he had 3 sacks and he looked like the best player on the field, I'd be like, it ain't his fault. But they don't even show up. They play. You're like, did they play? The game's over. And I don't remember doing anything. They don't even scratch the stat sheet half the time. So that's not a legacy player, in my opinion. Now, I remember the 70s. How many Hall of Famers? How many? Okay, now we'll ask this. 90s. How many? We got Woodson and Lloyd and Lake and a lot of really, really good players that never won nothing in Pittsburgh. And then we got in the 2000s and we've had some, Troy and Ben and these guys won Super Bowls. Okay, why do we not talk about the 80s? Woodson was drafted in the 80s, Lloyd and a few guys, but there was no legacy guys. There were some really good players who went elsewhere to get to be a legacy player, Woodson, or never quite got there, Lloyd, and guys like that. And why is that? Because they never won nothing. We're forgetting that. We're giving these guys nowadays a pass. Oh, man, you could be a great man and a really good player, but not legacy. Hey, Kevin Herbert's a great dude, and he does great things in the community and off the field, and he's been a really good player on the field. But if you ain't never won nothing, and even though you had Defensive Player of the Year on the same defense, even though you've had some of the other talent they've had, you've had an all-star offense at one point. That's where legacy comes. Legacy is for winners, and we just don't got them right now. And we don't have it at coach either. I'm sorry, but the head coach will never win. I doubt he ever wins another playoff game. And if he goes somewhere else, Daniel, I'm going to say this. Everybody thought Bill Belichick was the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I heard him called the greatest coach ever. But when he lost Brady, he couldn't win squat. Okay, now he went to college. Guess what? He ain't going to win there because he's dealing with kids with NIL money. Nick Saban talked about being the greatest college coach ever. Well, NIL comes in, he's irrelevant. The game passes guys by. And it's new. He's not relatable. He does not know how to handle the new modern NFL. And until the Steelers realize that and move on, they're not going to accomplish anything.
I don't disagree with much of what you said, and I want to add to it. On the other side of the break, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Got a few words from our sponsors. If you're listening live, we'll be back after a few seconds. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Before we get back into the conversation, I want to remind you guys of our website, SteelCurrentNetwork.com, your one-stop shop for Pittsburgh Steelers news and coverage. Go check it out. And while you're there, you can check out the audio-only podcasts, which include mine, State of the Steelers, that airs out on Saturdays on audio-only podcasts. You can go check out how wrong I was this past week. I thought I was finally getting on the right track. You'll be very disappointed in my predictions. With that being said, let's get back into it. Now, here's my concern with everything that you were saying there, Shannon, is if we go back to 2022, the Steelers draft Kenny Pickett, and I thought that was a mistake for a number of reasons. You had the general manager that was walking out the door. He wasn't going to, the new guy was going to come in. He wasn't going to have any loyalty to that player or anything like that. Which I thought could have been good or bad, good in the sense that if they drafted a bad player like they did, that the next guy can just move on from him. But I didn't really like that approach. And I feel that the Steelers are going to go out there and get a quarterback now in the 2026 draft. And that's probably going to be with Mike Tomlin at the helm. And I don't think that's going to be the same scenario where he's going to walk out of the door anytime soon if he's drafting and in charge of developing this guy. I'm a little bit concerned about it, because to me, it kind of seems like the writing on the wall is that we probably got more Tomlin for a lot longer than anybody probably wants to admit. What do you think?
Well, I'm scared you're right. Unless somebody has a epiphany and some enlightenment and realizes, you know, this ain't it, guys. This, I mean, until that changes, I don't think nothing's going to change. I don't care who you draft, because again, who hired Matt Canada? I'll talk about Kenny Pickett as much as anybody, but they ain't nobody could have been successful with Matt Canada as your offensive coordinator. Maybe they would have realized sooner. Maybe the accomplished quarterback would be like, "Who is this idiot? I mean, what the heck is this? What am I supposed to run this offense? This is like playing checkers, or I mean, it was ridiculous how simplistic. I mean, I've seen high school offensive coordinators and coaches do a much better schematic game plan than Matt Canada could. We keep going back and keep blaming the players. Yeah, they've brought in some bad players. But again, it's hard to be successful when you're running antiquated, antique, 1980s style game plans and play calling. It's just a broken system from the top down. Now that Colbert's moved on, and I think they've improved there. They got more modern with their approach, but they stick it with the same coaches, the same size of coaching staff, the same yes men, and they're not holding people accountable. And you talked about earlier about developing players. You can't develop young men when they make a mistake, which any young player is going to do, and then you take them and put them in the doghouse. They'll never develop that way. You have to have coaches who is understanding and can relate to the younger generation, the younger players, and know how to build their confidence up. And some guys just never make it no matter what you do. But look at Sam Darnold. He's just been knocked all over the league, criticized to no end. And here in the second part of his career, he's looking like, he's putting up some MVP type numbers on one of the best teams in the football, in the NFL. So again, where you are and who you're with matters.
I don't disagree. Sam Darnold was a guy apparently the Steelers were somewhat interested in, but didn't want to pay enough for him. How do you think this offense would look different with Sam Darnold there?
It wouldn't be the same because Darnold wouldn't be as effective because look at who his coaches are.
Yeah.
I mean, look at who these receivers would be. Look at who Darnold's throwing to in Seattle, and then you look at us, and you tell me he would be successful here. No.
Well, the Steelers try to make some moves. Apparently, that news came out here recently that they had matched the for both Rashid Shaheed and for Jacoby Myers. Both players were traded off of their former teams for multiple picks. Apparently, the Steelers matched those picks, but those individual players chose Seattle and Jacksonville over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Any surprise to that? I mean, when you see the amount of targets that the wide receivers are getting, and you, especially with like Jacoby Myers, who's in a contract year, who's expecting to get paid, he's probably not looking at the Steelers as an attractive option unless he's getting paid quite a bit. And the Steelers aren't going to do anything about his contract in the middle of the season. And then with the other gentleman, I'm not sure why. I mean, I guess maybe perhaps he just thought he'd have more of an opportunity with Seattle. Oh, I think he was actually reuniting with his former offensive coordinator, Kubiak. So there you go. What do you think about the fact that the Steelers were trying to get a wide receiver? To me, that tells me that at the minimum they have acknowledged that there's a problem, and the coming up short and it portraying itself on Sunday.
They'd be crazy to come here.
Yeah.
You'd absolutely be insane because you're playing for your future. You're playing for another contract. You're playing. It's a professional football. Everybody, it's like, even college this is professional football. There's millions of dollars on the line for these guys, and you want to go. It ain't about winning anymore, guys. That if they're late in their career, like everybody wanted to go to Tampa when Brady went there, because they knew, hey, this is a chance to win a Super Bowl or two. And it worked out. And they were signing guys for pennies on the dollar for what it would have cost anybody else because they wanted to get their championship. But it was guys a lot of times that were older towards the end of their career. Well, the Steelers ain't even close. You ain't winning no championship. So now it's all about the money. Most teams, there's probably a handful of teams in the league every year that have a realistic chance to win the Super Bowl. Everybody else is just fighting, trying to get better and get there in the next year or two. So these guys, I don't blame them. I would not want to go and play in a Tomlin run offense that what we've seen since 2016, 2017. And I can't imagine anybody else would either. Everybody's talking about, oh, we get rid of Tomlin. Hey, trade him. And everybody say, oh, teams will line up to get him. Okay, trade him. I don't think you're going to get what you think you're going to get. I think the pedals fell off that rose, guys. And I think everybody's seeing more and more that you got a good leader of men. He's a player-style coach. He, the players like him. He can shoot the bull with them and all this. But when it comes to being a schematic, game day adjustments, time management, personnel usage, knows how to hire competent coaches, he's clueless. It's over. That Rose is off it. If they had real value in him, they could have traded him. They should have done it already because it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it starts off at the top. Big Pun comes in here with a great point. The Rams have won a Super Bowl, torn the team down, and rebuilt it a contender all since Big Ben has retired.
Yeah, but what happened in there? Now, you're absolutely right, Big Pun. You're absolutely right. But what happened is they went all in and brought in what they needed to surround Aaron Donald. They won the Super Bowl. Then they went straight to the bottom. Everybody knew, seen it coming with all them contracts they get, and they had to start over. They eat a lot of money. They lost a lot of money after that. But as you say, what have they done? Smart decisions, smart personnel decisions. And now they built it back up, and they got to be considered a Super Bowl favorite this year. It can be done, but that's how you do it nowadays. But you don't have guys that are considered legacy players for the Rams. Half those guys they brought in to win that Super Bowl are gone already.
Yeah. One of them's on our team.
Yeah.
On the Steelers, Jalen Ramsey. He was on that team. Philly did it also. Mark Tobin 4547 says that's true. Yeah. So there's been some teams that have had that have a different mindset that apparently is working. The Steelers were copying maybe perhaps some of the moves from the Philadelphia Eagles by bolstering up the trenches. Now they got to get a quarterback and a receiver and a cornerback. It feels like there's more holes every year. Mm-hmm. It just keeps when are they going to get filled? And it seems like as they are filling up some of these anchor positions, like the TJ Watt, like the Cam Haywards, are getting to the point where they're no longer maybe perhaps as reliable as they once were. And so it's just a rotating.
They're anchors. Their contracts are anchors with the chain on it around the neck of the team, and they're pulling them straight to the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, they're anchors. But, yeah, we have to realize that everybody gets older. And older players still have value in the right system for the right price. And a lot of times it's no longer your system, and you trade them before they lose their value somewhere to get maximum return. But, man, you say with half of the Steeler fans right now with Steeler Nation, these young people, I think a lot of them must be young, and they haven't seen what's happened throughout the years. And they think, oh, man, I grew up watching Watt. He's my favorite, or Hayward's my favorite. And we can never trade him. We can never, And they ain't paying attention to what's happening around the league. And I'm sorry, but I got to ask. I want the community to answer. Who else was embarrassed watching last night? I was embarrassed, and I wasn't playing, but I loved the Steelers, and it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. That was as embarrassing performance but there's been a lot of them in the last 5 years. Daniel, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like now it used to be primetime games. They showed up if it wasn't Thursday night. Now I think they've lost their last 4. I mean, it's like as far as Sunday night, it's just they don't even show up. It's awful.
Yeah. I think they're 0-3 this year on Sunday night and Thursday night. the loss to Cincinnati, and then they had the Green
Bay at
Bay,
home.
and
Yep.
then the Chargers, and so yes, prime time used to be Pittsburgh time, and not anymore, not this year at least. It's more like the more pressure that's added on there, the more they're folding like a lawn chair. It sucks. It's unfortunate. You're right. Embarrassed is a good word because that's exactly how I felt last night when I was watching that game.
And not only do teams not fear the Steelers, they laugh at the Steelers.
Yeah.
They laugh. They're on the sidelines, chucking it up, having a grand old time. And here, I keep staying Harbaugh's, and they were just yucking that up. They were enjoying that last night. Just stomping the crap out of the Steelers. Steelers weren't competitive at all. Not at all.
No.
And it just it's embarrassing. You have to listen to Chris Collinsworth the whole game, run his mouth about, and you'd think that Herbert was the best quarterback. It don't matter whoever's playing the Steelers, they're the greatest. And he loves that. And you can just tell he was eating that alive. And that makes me even madder.
Yeah. Chris Collinsworth he's just bad too at what he does. Man. He's just so bad. Some of the things he says are so bad. I almost said other words, but it was bad. Almost as bad as the offense was playing last night. Do you think that Valdez Scantling is going to get going to get a helmet here soon? Given what we've seen out of the passing options, and how off page some of these receivers are with Aaron Rodgers, could a remedy be somebody he's familiar with, somebody who knows where he wants him to be at, and things of that nature? Do you see that maybe that could be some sort of help in the right direction?
No. After seeing if he's watching, paying attention, and I assume he was, I think I'd be like, I'm gonna get on with my life's work. I'm gonna retire. Rodgers retired last night, whether anybody knows it or not, because like I said, the dude just freaking quit. It was embarrassing, and the no engagement on the sidelines. Nobody wanted to talk to him. A lot of his teammates were not happy, and it's going to come out. We'll hear about it.
Yeah,
we're going to hear about it. You can tell they were not happy because he'll overthrow a wide open Metcalf, and then he's cussing and swerving and coming over on the sidelines and basically showing up Metcalf, and he's the one who made the bad pass. And, you see quarterbacks go over and say, "Hey, my bad, man. My bad. Pat him on, hey, I overthrew you, or I did this." And he throws that ball to Jonathan Smith. He's pissed that he didn't come down with it. He could have caught it, but he wasn't expecting that to sky for a ball when there wasn't nobody within 10 yards of him.
Yeah, that was bad.
He misses early in games. I've said it all year. He's missing high. And that's how you get interceptions and destroy drives. They're drive killers. And, the Steelers had every chance to open that game up with a big plays and a big lead, and they couldn't capitalize on anything. Kickoff out of bounds. I mean, and what about the whole punt return disaster when the guy can't fill the punt, Williams? And here's Collinsworth talking for 5 minutes about a helicopter punt, and this guy can put that ball, and it's like trying to rope the wind, or catch a tornado with your arm. I mean, he heard anybody go on about how a guy could put the ball funny, but he just kept going on about that. And it's just a bad job. I've been saying for weeks, when Williams fields kickoffs coming right at him, he catches it up here a lot. He struggles, with depth perception or something. And I've been saying I'm worried about that because that's a disaster waiting to happen. And sure enough, it did last night.
One of the things that you're saying there about Rodgers throwing high, I noticed last night he was throwing some heat. Is he trying to put too much on it, and he's losing his accuracy? And is that because he's maybe perhaps not confident in his strength anymore?
No, his arm's fine. I mean, I think his arm strength's there. I think he puts a lot of heat on it because he don't plant his feet, and he's throwing from different angles. And, I don't think he's trying to show off. I just don't think he wants to plant and get hit. He's scared of getting hit. Like I said, he'll throw it in the ground. And sometimes he's done that, and we're like, "Oh, it's brilliant." He did give up a sack because he threw it straight at the guy's feet. But sometimes it's just because he ain't got the balls to stand in there and take the big shot. Like I watched the primetime game with Sam Darnold in Seattle, and there was 3 times in the first half he stood in and took a monster shot right to complete the pass.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Rodgers do that all year. Have you? Now, I remember being doing it weekly, but I'm trying to think this whole season, when has Rodgers took a big shot to complete a pass?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, he really hasn't. He's looking at the rush. I mean, one of the weirdest things that he did last night was when he took the safety. Like I don't know what he was trying to do there. At that point, I mean, to be honest with you, it crossed my mind. I was like, is this guy shaving points? There's been a lot of bet things going on in the league or in professional sports recently.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Because it was just that bad. I've never seen him play that bad before. I hope it's just a bad game, but it's been spotty all year. It's been popcorn, as Tomlin would say. There's been times where he's played well. There's been times where he's made some throws. And there's just been times where you're just scratching your head where it's gone directly at somebody. Sometimes they've dropped it. There's been a lot of interceptions that have ended up on the ground throughout this year so far. And like I said, there's times where he looks elite. He looks maybe not a 20-year-old version of himself, but maybe 35. And last night's game was just really, really bad. And I just hope it's just a bad game. Maybe he was a little bit excited to be back in California, got a little bit too hyped. Boswell, even he missed the field goal. He never misses anything. And so I'm hoping that's the case, and they have a bounce back week against Cincinnati. I'm assuming they probably will, just because it's the Cincinnati Bengals and their defense stinks. And it's worse than it was before. I think they made some trades and things of that nature. And so I fully anticipate there being a bounce back, but I don't think you can take what they do this week as a sign of them overcoming their demons solely on that, because Steelers have done really good against the Cincinnati Bengals defense. What do you think?
It's just who they are now. I mean, they can beat anybody. They can lose to anybody. They're not consistent. They're consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
It's just, like I said, it's time. It's over. This coaching staff's not going to win anything. And you can bring in all the players. There's been more turnover of players in the last few years than there's ever been. Because we got to remember, till the 90s, you didn't have the free agency and everything. And Steelers drafted and kept guys. It made sense back then to keep guys and have legacy guys and everything like that. But the Steelers have been slow to change. And it took them forever to change their front office and get new GMs and people that are more current. But, as you say, they even tried to make trades. But again, now you got players. This what they left it up to the players to decide, where do you want to go? And they both chose somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now, there's a problem, people. And everybody's like, oh, you got to have Tom because he brings in all the players. No, he didn't. Or those were lies. Whatever. Believe what you want. But I'm sorry, but it doesn't pass the eye test. When you look at this team, why would anybody want to come here and be stuck in that offense? It's antiquated and it's not modern. And it's about video games. It's about fantasy football. It's about stats, baby. It's all about stats. And you're not getting stats in this offense. Now, it's great if you can win a championship. But this isn't a championship-winning coaching staff. It's not a championship-winning roster. And it's up to the Rooneys and ownership to change that. But, they've had a lot of success against Cincy. But I can't even say I think they should beat Cincy, even though Cincy don't have any defense at all.
Yeah.
Because, it might be a track meet, or the offense might not show up again. Because if Cincy can figure out somebody to get pressure on Rodgers, I'm afraid he's going to check out.
Well, I mean, if we go back to the last game against Cincinnati, that was the offensive line looked like that was a championship offensive line that with that game. They gave him so much time. Uh, if the Steelers don't score at least 28 points in that game, it's even if they win, if they were to go out there and they win 16-19 or something weird like that, uh, I'd be more concerned than anything else if this offense doesn't put up any points. They need to put up points. If they can't put up points against this defense, we're in for a long season. Shannon, what do you got going on the rest of the week?
Well, I get to go over a lot of this again on Wednesday night with Brother Tate and Big G on Pump Your Brakes, 8:00. I'm sure that we'll have some colorful conversations, and I'm sure that there'll be some things we agree on and some we won't, and we'll share it all with you. But you definitely don't miss that, and look forward to hashing out some more of this there.
Yes, sir. So I'll be back. I'll have a podcast on Saturday, the Steelers Hangover, previewing the upcoming matchup. I won't be back next week, guys. I'm actually going to Pittsburgh. I'm going to be at the game for the Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals. If you're going to be out there, let me know. Maybe we can all meet up somewhere. But I'll be at the Cincinnati Steelers game.
Who's going with you?
I'm going with the wife. And so
okay, yes.
We've
she's not your brothers, because you said your brothers are bad luck.
Brothers are bad luck. Yeah. Me and my dad, or me and my wife, we've won. My dad and my mom, when they have gone to the games, my mom and dad, they've also won every single time, and they were actually in attendance for the Indianapolis game. So there you go. I was actually telling my mom before that game, I was like, you might actually see him lose for the first time.
Well, hopefully they bring that kind of luck Sunday.
Yeah. We're going to try our best to bring in all the luck from Texas. And so I'll be out there this Sunday at the game. You can hear my audio-only podcast on Saturday. But until next time, guys, y'all be safe. Hey, Shannon, take us out, my man.